There must be rules on vets putting down healthy pets. My uncle's ex tried to work it in that she would get half off whatever my grandmother would leave him when she passes jokes on her. My grandmother is passing over her kids, not maliciously. My uncle is very well off, and so is my mom, and leaving everything to my brother and me. I'll also try to get sole custody of both of their children, who are in their 20s. I'm going to school to be a vet assistant teacher. As a veterinarian, she told us on Monday, she's had clients bring their animals in to be euthanized, so their spouse couldn't have them. SMDH not a divorce lawyer, but worked for one. Back in the 90s, a woman and her kids went on vacation and came back home to find that the soon-to-be ex-husband had broken into their house with his attorney, thrown a party, and microwaved the kid's kitten. Husband's attorney got departed, I believe, but that was about it, and microwaved the kid's kitten. What the actual frick is wrong with people? I'm not a lawyer, but I work as a legal assistant for a family lawyer. The ex-husband was getting remarried. One, his ex-wife sent him and his new fiancée a dozen black roses before their wedding. Two, his ex-wife then had a plane fly across during their wedding, dragging a sign that read name of ex-husband likes it up the butt. You can't make this stuff up. The sad part is she was not well and had been in and out of sight wards over the years. But I hope she's getting the help she needs now. I'm not a divorce lawyer, but my prior employer once was served with an obviously forged garnishment order from an employee's ex-wife directing garnishment of his wages in an amount that far exceeded his actual wages. We reported it to the police department employer here, who has had to garnish wages from time to time. I don't know how it is there, but here, when there's any sort of garnishment, we pay the money to a state county, and they send the money to the person or company the ex wouldn't have gotten it anyway. I had one client who was controlling their spouse by keeping them addicted to him. I fired them. My boss had a client who, well after we fired them, set themselves and their child on fire rather than give up custody. Here's my funny story. On the stand, my client and the other lawyer's client each spent about an hour saying I'm not lying, they're lying, then calling the other Biba goof you name it, often using that phrase exactly. At one point, one of them was cautioned by the judge for swearing and said, "Frick, sorry." The judge decided they were both not credible. Lawyers Afra did what is the pettiest reason you've ever seen. For divorce, a client and his wife came in regarding a real estate transaction. At the end of the consultation, the client casually stated that he would like to divorce his wife. I was stunned. The wife started crying. The client started rubbing his wife's shoulder and told her that everything would be okay. That was an awkward few minutes. The weirdest I've ever seen is a co-worker of mine. His wife saw a picture of him at a pool when he was in high school and really athletic, turned muscular, tanned, and so on. Over the 10 years after high school, he stopped lifting and lost his muscle tone and just became skinny. She told him she wanted to get back to working out because she really liked the way he once looked, and he said it was something he missed doing and agreed to get a gym membership. He was at the gym 4 days a week, but was only really working out for 2 of them. On the days he didn't work out, he would sit in the sauna to get sweaty, watch Netflix, and then go home. When she asked about him going to the gym and accidentally let it slip that he was fudging workouts twice a week, she apparently found that to be a deal breaker and filed for divorce. Weird feeling to have your wife attracted more to her past version of yourself she never met than you. It would give me some serious depression. My father-in-law and mother-in-law's breaking point was when he threw a breadcrumb at her from across the kitchen the divorce took 4 years to settle. The breadcrumb heard around the house. I had a client who with his wife were onto a computer game like The Sims, only more X-rated. I think it was called Second Life, where you have an avatar and can interact with other people's avatars. He suspected his wife of through her avatar hijinks and made his own avatar to stalk her in the game. Sure enough, her avatar was doing the dirty with some dude's avatar. That was it for my client. Wife wanted divorce like 2 months into marriage because the husband would squeeze the toothpaste from the top and not bottom. She claims to have told him 1,000,000 times over to start, would have been easier to get 2 toothpastes. I thought, definitely the fridge story. A woman filed for divorce because her husband would eat everything he can find in their fridge whenever the wife was out for work. So she came back to them basically empty fridge each night. He also cheated on her, but she was less angry about that. The fridge was what pushed her to the point she wanted a divorce. Honestly, I understand my younger sister stole my M and MS once, and can't imagine if it was someone I was married to eating everything in the fridge. I'm far too angry to take such a thing rationally that I'm a lawyer, but not that kind. However, my brother's fourth wife divorced him because she found out the ring he'd used was originally his third wife's. They deserved each other. I think once you get up to a fourth wife, maybe you should rethink your life choices in general. Nobody ever believes me about this one, but it's true. A man wanted a divorce from his wife and he gave this example as the last straw. His wife ate those nasty pumpkin Halloween candies like candy corn, but pumpkin-shaped. He had been looking forward to them all day, and when he got home, she had eaten them more. He snapped, "Swear on my life, this story is true." Should have been in their marriage. Vows to have him to hold from this day forward, as long as you don't eat all the pumpkin candies. I once had clients who got a divorce because she wanted to buy a condo in Naples, Ethel. The petty part of the story is that combined their lawyer fees would have bought a very nice condo on the water in Naples. Ethel and her man divorced Ernest Bourdain after about a month because he offered a Dutch oven. She wrote a biography. The chapter about her marriage to him is a single blank page. Lawyer, but not a family or lawyer by trade. Not sure if pettiness was attached. But one contributing reason to her divorce I saw was that mom wanted her son to play soccer and dad didn't. Probably had fundamental differences in how they believed their children should be raised, and this was just a symptom of it. Not me, but a family member who was an attorney had someone call her day for the lockdown, saying, "I have been stuck with my wife for 4 days, and I need a divorce." I'm sorry, but compared to the others I've read here, this is one of the most hilarious in my eyes. Not a lawyer. But apparently my brother divorced his wife when McDonald's forgot to put BBQ sauce in with her chicken nuggets at the drive-thru, and she asked him to go back and get some. He didn't. And then I guess she started smashing up food and throwing it at him out the window. So yet, McDonald's, how could you ruin a marriage dandruff? Wife didn't like that the husband's dandruff would flow into her face when riding a bike. They make bicycles built for one. Now I know. My dad divorced my mom because she didn't throw enough parties. Now he lives alone. He neither throws nor goes to parties. Not a lawyer. My mom's co-worker divorced over dishes in the dishwasher. The wife would get so frustrated over the husband co-worker not rinsing dishes before he loads them in the dishwasher. To compromise, they bought a super nice top-of-the-line dishwasher. Solves the problem, right? She yelled about the dishes that night. He filed for divorce. The next day, I rinse dishes, but the manual for my sweet meal dishwasher says don't. The food particles are detected as part of the rinse cycles. As far as I know, my first internship in law school was at a family law firm. Did work on one case where a couple divorced after 48 years of marriage. The guy said he finally got sick of her cooking. Not a lawyer, paralegal. Someone came in for a divorce because there's soon to be exchanged a password on their phone. But plaintiff had always had the code to get in, but now they didn't. Divorce time. Not a lawyer. But this happened to my wife's cousin. Her husband came home one day asking her to give a higher financial contribution on the groceries because she, as a lady, was using more toilet paper than him. She took it as a joke and had a good laugh. He got mad and asked for divorce worth, mentioning that his salary was 3 times higher than her one. Almost every frickin' guy I've lived closely with seems to wrap the paper 20 times around the hand, then wipe once and do it again. If the waste paper basket is there, yes, I did not ask you to fill it. I remember one episode of a TV show here in my country, similar to Jerry Springer. The woman didn't know her husband used dench until marrying and living together. She said she couldn't handle any more. She was disgusted. They both cried. She said a lot of "I'm sorry," but she couldn't go on. They were married for a few months. Don't know if it was true, though. It's like the legend of the Chinese couple. He found out after they got married that she had gotten work done before meeting him. He sued her for misrepresenting herself. My aunt used to work as a divorce lawyer. The worst one was a couple fighting over a hamster, of which took so long the thing died before they were settled. She said it was a bargaining chip to win favor from their children at that rate, just by another hamster. My ex was like this, basically gave him everything just so I could leave him. He took most of the money and assets, but I got away from him. Yay. Then he blew all his money and abandoned the kids. Seriously struggled to cope with 100% care and costs, but wouldn't change at BC. I have my kids, and they have me. Still was very high to come to terms with the injustice. Sigh. My dad was a lawyer, not me. He once told me that a divorce came in because the wife would just scream at the top of her lungs randomly. Maybe she'll stop screaming after when married. No, that wasn't it. Luckily, it was not a marriage yet. But a friend broke off a 5-year relationship and an engagement in an argument over Panda Express. Their relationship had been strained, and he had just moved to a new city for work. During his lunch break, she calls him and asks where he was eating. He says, Panda Express, and she's like, EWW, Panda Express. You eat that every day? No, I don't. I might have it once a week. No, you eat there like every day. Then he hangs up on her, and they never spoke again. Whitflow, well, honestly, I know a couple that divorce handled after less than 6 months married because the guy started farting around her, not like at her, but just not hold him around her anymore. The first time my husband fared in front of me was a few months into dating. It was the worst smell to this day that I've ever experienced. He was so ashamed that I had to forgive him, but I was so mad at the time. Turns out he does a lot of terrible farts because he has IBs. If they're really bad, he sleeps on the couch. I decay. I just really love him, even when he farts. A woman came in wanting to divorce her husband. He had just gotten a new job and a pretty big raise. It turned out that this new job of his also required that he work from home. But he was working in an office before she was having an affair with their next-door neighbor, and him being home or meant that she couldn't cheat on her husband easily. That was definitely a twist. I was expecting something like him being the one having the affair, but nope. I left my husband because he babe. I got it at me constantly, but would never do it. Last straw with him letting our power go out in July, when we had a heat wave and my sick dog was stuck in the heat. I decided to divorce my first husband when he complained about me buying lunch at McDonald's. He had called me at my office, asked what my lunch plans were, and I said I was meeting my friend Callie at McDonald's. He started complaining about spending money for restaurant food and that I should have packed lunch from home. We had just that past weekend bought him a new pair of ski boots that cost over $100. It was a final straw. I was unhappy about a few things that I could have overlooked, but to be lectured about spending $6 on a burger and fries was just too much. I let him be for a few minutes. They eventually got divorced over it. Said friend was a part of a larger co-ed friend group. Apparently, the guy in the story was designated driver one evening out when his fiancée was out of town and dropped everyone off at home one by one. He apparently dropped this particular friend off last. Logistically, it made sense on the route he took. She lived closest to his house, but that meant that they were alone together in the car for 8 minutes. They have zero romantic history together. Nothing happened, and they barely interact save for when they are gathered as a group. His fiancée became highly suspicious of him, and she was convinced something happened between him and the friend, despite him calling as they left the bar and 30 minutes later when he arrived home alone. They have a doorbell camera, which she was watching. She asked a bunch of questions about what they talked about at the bar, when they were in the car, and what was said when the two of them were alone. She then casually said she doesn't want her to come to their wedding. He agreed to disinvite her. Billy forgot and just thought the whole thing would blow over well. Wedding day arrives, and she shows up in a Nuba Exa with 4 or 5 members of the friend group. The fiancé can see guests arriving from the bridal suite and throws a full-on tantrum when the friend arrives. The wedding planner locked the bride, groom, best man, and maid of honor in their hotel room and told them to work it out. They did not work it out. The bride wanted the groom to tell her to leave, and he tried to point out that would cause way more of a disturbance than if they just let it be and pretend she didn't exist for the day. Wrong answer. The best man eventually got a hold of the groom's phone and called the friend and explained the situation. She left the wedding and hasn't spoken to the groom since. The wedding took place 45 minutes late, while the makeup person was called back to fix the bride's makeup. They eventually split after the groom realized that the accusations would never end. Everyone was suspect: his co-workers, his friends' wives, her friends. He couldn't talk to any other woman, no matter how harmless the conversation, without her getting suspicious. And yes, we all thought she was cheating on him. We made the mistake one time of bringing this up until it became belligerent and attempted to fight everyone. So we left it alone, and we'll never know, yet she definitely was. She was freaking out to Guisan for some reason. He had a problem with that. Seriously, she was genuinely mystified that it bothered him. Gaslighting man. She knew the entire time he was wrong, and that her husband, she would have made a problem with it, but attempting to make it seem like not a big deal. She was hoping he'd second-guess his feelings and stay not a lawyer, but I'd have to say my divorce was kind of petty. She decided 1.5 years after she kicked me out she should divorce me because I didn't come crawling back to her. Funny, as she realized too late that when she kicked me out, she didn't have any income. From my experience, if something petty is the stated reason, there's usually a lot more to the story. One of the pettiest reasons was when my female client believed that her husband loved his mother more than he'd ever love her. Now I'm going to answer a different question. What was the craziest reason for a divorce? Glad you asked? My client female was convinced her husband was having an affair. He worked some construction job but always came home smelling great. She finds texts from his work friend Bob where they are planning some late-night pipe repairs. Well, this is the South. There is no such thing as gay hair, so she believed that him and Bob were just working late. My client feels awful. He thought her husband was cheating, and clearly he wasn't. He cared so much about her that he worked with Bob all through the night. He even cared so much about her sense of smell that he'd even shower, so she wouldn't have to smell all the pipe cleaning stuff. She feels so bad she takes him to dinner. He asks her if she wants a drink, and she sees him walk off to the bar to get their drinks. Most thoughtful husband ever. Well, a minute turns to 5 to 10. Finally, she decides she has to find him. She looks everywhere, then realizes that she didn't check the men's room. She's afraid her precious husband is sick. She jiggles the door open. Her husband was on his knees, but he wasn't sick. She caught him giving a stranger a BJ at the bar on their date to make up for the whole "sorry, I thought you were having an affair" thing. The reason I know this in such details, she wrote a 7-page front and back letter detailing every sexual thing her husband ever did, thought about, or even looked like he thought about. Jesus, that is wild Lowell. Any other married people sitting here wondering if some stupid little thing they did or said it was going to be on a diet next year. Oh, babe, if you're reading this, I'm sorry I forgot the end. I know. I sometimes forget things at the grocery store. Even when I bring a list of look my wife gave me the last time I farted. I'm not a lawyer, but I've heard of a breakup between a couple because the GF said that their zodiac signs were not compatible and therefore they couldn't be together. When I started dating my ex, my mom totally freaked out because apparently our Chinese zodiacs didn't match. Yet she believes in all that superstitious crap since that moment. She was subtly trying to break us up. Grocery costs. Literally thought it was a joke or code for something. Turned out she came from a tight budget family and thought he was so wasteful with his paycheck when he bought ribs once a month. Not a lawyer. In one of my philosophy professors, now ex-professor, and his wife got a divorce because he tried to ex-houseize her. The Christian school didn't take it well, and he is no longer a professor there. Well, actually, the couple was getting a divorce due to the wife having a year-long affair with a professor of the rival school across the street. The attempted exorcism didn't help matters, though, since several people seem interested. The exorcism didn't work. According to said professor, The couple got a divorce. The professor had got some custody of the kids, got screwed in the money matters, and now his ex-wife and kids are moving to Ohio. I guess the thing with the rival school's professor didn't work out for the ex-wife. While his oldest daughter is preparing to go to the school he used to teach at this fall. Poor girl has to pay her way now when she planned for most of her life on going for free. The whole story was pretty big for her while at school. The professor went to jail illegally for like a month without any accusation against him because he answered a phone call from one of his super young daughters. His wife had filed her protection order for herself, not the children, and the campus police took them away even though he didn't answer the call on campus. It was a whole scandal, and the school was involved way more than it legally should have been. Super weird stuff. According to this professor, the president of the school was demon-possessed, and that accounted for the whole thing. IT gave a portion of the student body something to covertly argue over for a couple weeks. Not a divorce, but a couple I know broke up after the woman had a dream that the guy was cheating on her. Apparently her reasoning was if it wasn't true, I wouldn't dream about it. She took it so seriously she left.